Mental status exam. You guys all know how to do a mental status exam. I don't have to go through all of this with you. All right. Let's get to the heart of this and start talking about some different tests. The need for a means for the mental status was really acknowledged since the 1960s. One of the very earliest mental status exams that was formalized was called the Blessed Information Memory Concentration, the BIMC, that was developed in 1968. A couple of people are nodding, okay. You heard about that, right? I was giving you an out.
Nursing homes ordered it. It's not part of PLC, right?
No, nursing homes still use it, yes. But over the years, the mini mental state exam became the best, the most widely used. And the reason why is because Folstein in the 1960s made it free. It was free for everyone. If you look in your packets, you have a Folstein MMSE in there. Why? Because it's shareware on the computer. If you type in Folstein MMSE, you'll pull one of those up. So that's free. However, in 1998, Dr. Folstein decided to copyright it. And, oh, this is a reference, by the way, for a really good mental status exam. If you want to go through and see each of the different domains of the mental status exam, they show clips. It's really cool. So the MMSE became most widely known. And two of the ones that we're going to touch on today, the MMSE 2, second edition, and the Cognistat. These are some other ones that are also being used. And the comprehension subtest of the WACE, really good for looking at different social judgment. What do you do? What's the thing to do if you find an envelope in the street that's sealed, addressed, and has a new stamp on it?
Check it.
Open it and see if it has money.
What's man?
So the MMSE, aka the Folstein, it's a brief screening tool used for cognitive impairment. It can be used to track progress over time. It correlates well with the WACE system for the full scale IQ, in the same way that the QUIC kind of does. Assessing cognitive impairment in these different domains. But mind you, this is just a screening device. It's good for screening. It's not good for diagnosing. It's good for looking at impairments, overt impairments in these areas of functioning, so you can follow up with different tests later. Right? The MMSE 2, which was developed recently and is has a 5-minute brief version and a 10 to 15 minute standard version and a longer extended version, and it's very quick to score. It's normed for ages 18 to 100, and it has parallel forms, so it has a red form and a blue form that you can use, and it's available in all of these languages. So that's another reason why it's good. Yes, ma'am. It was published by PAR, which was kind enough to give me copywritten permission to talk more about it. So the brief version looks at registration, orientation to time, place, recall tasks, and it has 16 items. The standard version builds on the brief version and also has registration, recall, and repetition tasks. And then the expanded version has 90 items, and it has a lot more. It also has memory for stories and processing speed. It has a digit symbol coding. So these are actual sample items from the MMSE, and the owners of the creators of the MMSE, Dr. Folstein, actually said that the reason they have an MMSE 2 is because over the years, students and other users made many suggestions on how to improve the MMSE. There was a need for clarifying the instructions, so certain tasks were administered. There was a need for phrases that were more easily translated into other languages, and users requested multiple forms in order to minimize practice effects. So that was why They created a new one in 2010. So an example of orientation to time would be, what day is today? An example of a naming would be, what's this? And the repetition is, now I'm going to ask you to repeat what I say. Ready? Yes. It is a lovely sunny day, but too warm. Now you say that.
It is a lovely sunny day, but too warm.
Very good. All right. So those are just examples of the MMSE. It's very simple to administer, and I highly recommend it as a formalized mental status exam. However, you don't necessarily need a formalized mental status exam if you get really good at all the other stuff we just talked about, doing the serial sevens, asking the person to spell the word world backwards, doing some similarities, judgment questions. If you get good at that and documenting all of that, then you don't necessarily need this. This is good for tracking progress over time. If you're not going to be the same clinician for the person throughout their lifetime and you want to have a measure that another person can use, or if you're working with someone who's in a nursing home or mandated through the courts. Anytime you're working with someone mandated through the courts, I highly recommend using a standardized instrument because, this has been normed, whereas a general MSE hasn't. The Cognistat, however, is, it's another one. It was created in 1979 by Dr. Kiernan, and it's a neurobehavioral screening test. It's very much like the MMSE. It was originally the neurobehavioral screening examination, so you might know it by that. It was originally normed for and used for acute psychiatric population, and this most recent version was updated in 2009. It does have a computerized version, which is nice. It can allow for you to test 6 to 12 months later, so you can test someone now and then 6 months from now. It doesn't have parallel forms, but it does have an alternate word list for repeated administration. And it says if you have someone who is severely impaired, then you can use the same word list, and it doesn't really matter because you won't have much in the way of practice effects. It, like the MSE, is just a screening tool. It does help to identify basic strengths and weaknesses and inform decisions for later on, and track cognitive decline. Again, it's not supposed to be used necessarily for diagnosing. When you were saying the child, someone was saying, who do you use for someone under the age of 18? I was wrong. The Cognistat's for 12 and older. But little kids, like under the age of 12, I don't know, but the Cognistat is for 12 and older. It's also well referenced and well cited in a lot of different studies, the same as the MMSE. So both of them are. And I also in my research saw that the Cognistat is the #1 for VA clinics. And these are the different domains that the Cognistat measures, very much like the MMSE.